Welcome everyone to the Emergent Essence Dynamics free webinar number 10 of 2019. It is July 15th and the theme is Unfollow the Carrot, Busting Myths on Self-Development. Hopefully this will be a nice juicy one for you guys. We've got Paul, Jim, Amiel, Irena joining us. It's an international crowd. Germany, Italy, Canada, and there may be a few more that join as well. And then also we are recording this, and some people that signed up will, everyone who signed up will get the recording. And so some people who didn't attend will hear anyway. So welcome all of you listening out there in the recording land. I'd love to hear from you. What's attracting you to this webinar? I'm hoping it was clickbaity title for you.
It definitely was. So yeah. I was like hooked on this very good advertisement. No, and okay, specifically for me, it is like self-development in a world that constantly demands stuff of you. Like, how can I really be sure I'm following my own will and not just getting hooked on something, which is pretty much the explanation you put into the description.
Yeah.
So yeah, please bust some myths.
Okay, yeah, that's one of the first things we're going to do. Who else? Just want to hear your ideas on what this is, what you want, what you're ready for here.
Well, I know you're Troy as a great trainer, and I was really curious how you, talk about this topic. Because it's always there is something that resonates a lot with me when you talk, and I say, now I want really to listen to what Troy has to say.
Okay. Excellent. I got a lot to say on this. Some of it you might not like to hear. So, but for everything I'm going to put across as a point, I always will have an antidote for it. Right, so I don't believe in scare tactics, and in fact that's one of the things I do believe that some industries, media, marketing, even coaching and leadership programs are guilty of this. Is they will create scare tactics and move you into fulfillment, and this is what I'm saying: what to watch out for and how to neutralize it. Okay. And it's a very, very, very old idea, okay, on how to keep us basically, in control and not give us our autonomy. So that is my big splash statement that I'll back up throughout this webinar. Because one of the points of EED is to restore autonomy and resilience in a person. So therefore it will affect their sense of fulfillment, right? And so if the fulfillment is false to begin with, and we're chasing dreams and carrots that aren't based on ourselves or from our own source, or we don't have the willpower to sustain what we're chasing after. So, then the whole EED thing will fall apart. There is no autonomy, there is no resilience. So I do have to reconcile the question of what is fulfillment when we're based on resilience. Okay, so we have to actually redefine fulfillment. Okay, anyone else wanted to add anything in there?
I'll just quick add in for myself. Going back a number of years ago, I had come up with my own personal development of fulfillment through positive psychology and coaching that was really helpful to me at the time. My external circumstances are drastically different, and that structure that was once serving me has completely fallen apart. Yeah. And so I am now curious about how do I go about discovering fulfillment a new way.
Yeah, okay. And I know the title is saying Busting Myths on Self-Development. I know I'm talking now on fulfillment. What I'm seeing is a lot of self-development is based upon chasing fulfillment. So we need to talk about fulfillment, and then that has an effect on self-development, which has an effect on our relationship to transformation and change. Okay, so it all goes together. Fulfillment, self-development, transformation is all together, but I'm going to separate those out so that we're seeing the distinctions between all of them. Yeah, great. Yes. So it needs to be timeless as well, right? And we need to be organic. You know, in one period of our lives, we're thinking, okay, this is what fulfills me. And then we get into another period and everything changes, either the circumstances or ourselves or both. And so then, and we can have these periods of feeling loss, or I thought I had it all together and now I don't, or, you know, so, and that's the role of resilience, is to give us that adaptability and flexibility without moving too far into shame and self-punishment and fear and thinking everything I was doing for the past 10, 20 years is all bullshit, or I thought, you know, I went to therapy for 20 years and now all this stuff is coming back, and why is that, right? You know, if we understand that things move through cycles, and that fear and loss and, you know, and collapse and change all have its place in our transformational cycles. If we accept that we go through phases, again, that's going to reinforce the resilience, and it actually can enhance our current levels of fulfillment. Okay. And is there anything else to add from anyone before I move on?
Yeah, I would like to add why I came.
Okay.
It's pretty like in your image there, don't think like that thing, that you shouldn't think all these things, and like something, oh my God, you shouldn't eat this stuff, you shouldn't eat that stuff, and all these thoughts. Like, I'm just personally interested because I have a lot of carrots.
Okay, I hope they're organic, because they have to be organic. Okay. Yeah, that's another thing we'll talk about. What's the role of rules and conditions? And when rules and conditions start driving fulfillment, it's probably false, right? Most likely. So, and we'll you know, and I'm going to show you how that all works together as far as these dynamics of how we can move from a place of conditions and how we can move into a state where there are no conditions, where it becomes unconditional. Again, that's the level of source and resilience. Okay, this is all going to pull together very beautifully. All right, so I'm going to switch the slide now. So to summarize, what are we discovering today? We're going to get an overview of how sustainable transformation actually works. I know there's lots of theories in transformation. I'm looking at what makes it sustainable. Also looking at how fear and fulfillment play into this transformational cycle. So what I am, so for good and for bad, I am not saying that fear and fulfillment do not belong here, or whether it's one or the other. I'm saying both will play into our transformation. It's how we treat it and when and where we use it, okay? That will become important. There's a place for fear and there's a place not for fear. There's a place for fulfillment and there's a place not for fulfillment. And I'll answer those as we go. We're going to identify some common myths about fulfillment and self-development, and we're going to see how they feed what I'm calling this rebel-victim dynamic. I'm going to spend some time defining what I mean by the rebel-victim. It's like a polarity that swings back and forth between I'm a victim, now I'm rebelling, and now I'm back to a victim, and now I'm rebelling, okay? We're going to look at some simple tools for restoring resilience, autonomy, and well-being before we move into any fulfillment territory. So we're looking at get the resilience and autonomy and a sense of well-being in place first, and then start working on creating fulfillment, okay? So that it's directly linked. Many times people move directly into fulfillment thinking it's going to make them more resilient or autonomous or give them more well-being. And I'm saying, no, do it the other way around, all right? And then some tips for creating fulfilling action and strategy that are based on resilience so that you can move the fulfillment forward, okay, once it's resilient based. You need action, otherwise it's just all a good idea and it's all bullshit. Any comments? Okay. So, and for those that have not joined these webinars before, I'll briefly go through what is EED. I know all of you have been through this. So EED is called Emergent Essence Dynamics, short EED. We are looking at a model that is fractal based, and it's a holistic approach to anything to do with working in relationship with ourselves, others, the world. All right, so this applies to many, many, many professions because they're relationship based and they're based on growth and development of human beings. What we're saying in EED is our growth and development works in cycles, and it's based on fractals. A fractal meaning a pattern that is naturally occurring on the large and small scale. And we also consider everything. These patterns affect everything. So we do not fragment the person. We don't fragment parts of their lives. Everything is holistic and everything works together. What we're really doing here is we're driving down to a deeper level of how humans interact, either with ourselves or with each other, and we're pinpointing the most fundamental thing, the fundamental level driving all those dynamics, okay? And so for today, we're looking at what's the most fundamental level that drives our fulfillment and also that drives our fear. Okay? We're not focused on transformation first. What we're focused on is first accessing a person's resilience, well-being, and autonomy. And from there, they can create any transformation. Anything becomes possible when we are autonomous and resilient. If we go for transformation first, then we're not guaranteeing resilience or well-being or autonomy. We may just be aggravating some deeper level fears or emptiness that was driving the person in the first place. And so it's just like a Band-Aid on the cut. What EED is going for is the root cause or the root level, okay? So with that said, if the transformation is based on fear and emptiness, it's coming more from ego. We've explained in other webinars how ego is actually like an empty shell and it needs to fill itself up. Therefore, that does affect our level of fulfillment if it's ego-based. We're just filling, and we're never satisfied. Essence level is more where we're in our permanent, timeless nature, if you want to call it our infinite awareness or the sense of self that is beyond the restraints of personality, right? When we can reconcile ego and essence together, so they're working together, okay? Because we do not deny ego. We're not trying to eliminate it, but we can't always live in essence 100% of the time. The two are working together in a fluid relationship. That's when we find liberation and agility, where when we are resilient, we're coming from a level of acceptance. It doesn't mean we become doormats. It just means we are embracing what's around us. Then we can become agile to create, and therefore nothing is taboo. And when nothing is taboo, that is a true freedom. Okay, and that's a lifetime of work to achieve a level of nothing is taboo. So what we're really doing, it's not transformation, it's more transmutation. We're taking everything that is, and it just gets reorganized so that from a level of autonomy and resilience, we can recreate ourselves into the best versions of ourselves or to any version we want. But the difference is that it is now connected to our own inner source, not an external source, not where we defer our power and knowledge to something else. We are accessing our own power and knowledge from within. This applies to coaching, leadership, mediation, facilitation, healing, and more. So, boom, let's get started. What are symptoms of false fulfillment? What makes us go chase that carrot? What makes that carrot so attractive? And then when does that carrot start to rot? Okay. When we're chasing and when we think we got the carrot and it starts to rot in our hands, that's false fulfillment. It's temporal, transcendental, transitory, ephemeral. So, what are your just a little brainstorming? What are some symptoms of false fulfillment? What do you know?
Like typical where you have emotionally very high moods, and then you start something, and you, after a period of time, you like begin to recognize, okay, it's not what I thought at first.
Okay, so it can almost feel bipolar, like real extreme highs, extreme lows.
Yeah. Like that. Might be sports, might be a relationship. Like you start, and you're like in a sports case, okay, yes, this is the best thing. I was searching for this, and then you have the first 2 training rounds, and you're like, wow, this is totally different than I thought. Or a relationship can really become bipolar, where it's like always going up and down.
Yeah. Okay, so these extreme ups and downs, we're not denying that we experience a roller coaster ride in life, but when we're driven by those ups and downs, it means there's no base, there's no root, and it can create addictions, because then this becomes adrenaline-based fulfillment, right? You're always searching for that high, okay? Any self-development based on that kind of adrenaline is not going to be healthy in the end, because it can become self-destructive. That's my claim. Yeah. Who else?
Anything that says you will be fulfilled when you become or when you get this. It's a external strategy. You know, the simple metaphor is Wile E. Coyote finally catching Roadrunner. All of a sudden, the drive for his life is completely gone.
Right. Absolutely. So one of the first points, I got a few points here. So if fulfillment is based on conditions, based on if and when, and it's future oriented, it's setting you up for a constant chase, constant rules and conditions. And so it can be designed where, well, you'll never get it, or when you do get it, then there can be dissatisfaction, disappointment, because then you've trained yourself to keep chasing more, right? So, yeah, look for conditional-based fulfillment, ifs and whens. You'll have your well-being in the future, but not now. What else? What else is out there? Let's see. Let's see what I got. I kind of forget what I put a few points on here. I kind of forget what I put. So let's be surprised here. I got another point here. Okay, yeah. So if it's based on conditions, all right, the conditions imply a level of non-acceptance of your own self, meaning I am not enough. Currently, I am not enough. Therefore, if I do this, when I achieve that, I will then be acceptable. I will be enough. I'll be okay. And so then we can get addicted to this, the road we travel to get there. I'm not enough now, I will be later. I'm not enough now, I will be later. Let me accumulate, achieve. But that also sets us up for a lot of stress, anxiety, frustration, and disappointment, because we're never living in a level of fulfillment now. It's fulfillment later. And so what that, in a way, it's a double-edged sword, because we'll say, well, I believe in the law of attraction, I believe this, but at the same time, I'm a piece of shit now. So what am I attracting? Am I attracting the dream or the piece of shit that I think I am? So we're always manifesting exactly what we're thinking and dreaming on the most fundamental level. So if I'm chasing fulfillment, I'm almost in the future, I'm actually not manifesting anything except what I'm telling myself now, which is I'm not enough. So I'll just guarantee, like a self-fulfilling prophecy, I'm not enough, I need more and more and more. And it'll be a forever chase, okay? You following that logic?
Absolutely. And the sense of not enough never stops, no matter what you achieve.
That's right, because the thinking hasn't changed. It's not like magically when I get that job or that amount of money or that life partner, girlfriend, boyfriend, that suddenly, poof, like magic, I'm going to be a different person. I'm still the same person, still in relationship with it in the same way. It's not the thing that's going to magically change me, okay? But we're duped into thinking that, right? So what a lot of false fulfillment will play on is our need for validation, which plays upon identity. Okay, the ego is based on two things. It needs to know that it exists, therefore it seeks validation. And then it wants to guarantee that it exists, so it seeks power. Because through power, it will get security, so that it will continue to exist, all right? So fundamentally, we're seeking validation. Do I exist? Which can be, am I enough? Am I good enough? Do I belong? All of that, okay? And what it's doing is, not only is it playing up the need for validation, but it's aggravating our sense of powerlessness. When you put those two together, that is vicious, okay? Just to be frank, okay? There are two main games we play in life. The game of validation, do I exist? Do I belong? And then the game of power, which is, can I ensure I exist? Am I secure? Am I safe? Okay? So if I take away my power, meaning I have no security, I don't know if I'm safe or not, which means I don't even know if I exist. And then I say, well, wait a minute, I've got this thing that says you exist. And when, you know, like, and you'll be valid, you'll belong, you'll be a great, great person. And then from there, you'll get your power. But what I'm actually saying is, you don't have any power right now, and you don't even know if you exist. So I'm aggravating both, okay? I can go further on that, but is that making sense to you guys? That when I'm seeking validation and dangling a carrot in front of myself, I'm also saying I'm powerless to get it because I don't have it right now. I have to somehow chase and gain the power in order to get that validation, okay? It's a mean game. Okay, so this is based on a classic formula called problem at reaction, and I'm calling it, in the sense of fulfillment, reward. Other people would say solution, okay? Problem. I'm going to aggravate your need for validation. I'm going to aggravate your sense of powerlessness. I want you to feel that. I want you to react to that. And then I'm going to say, well, if you change this, that, and the other, I can give you the reward. You can get the reward. I can give you the easy solution. This is what all marketing is based upon. This is what all politics are based upon. This is what religion and government, everything is based upon this. War is based upon this, okay? Problem, reaction, solution, okay? So fulfillment works in the same way, or false fulfillment, I should say. What makes you laugh, Jim? You're like cackling like crazy.
Yeah, that is every sales, copy, and marketing training right there. Is you illustrate the problem that the client has, you describe the reaction that they're having, and then you're like, if you work with me, then we can create this outcome. So that's why I'm laughing.
Yes, yes. And the point of this webinar is, like, so many people would say, yeah, I've heard that before. But what I'm saying is, okay, if you're working as a coach or as a leader or as a mediator, be careful that you're not following into the same formula when you're trying to create transformation with the client, okay? Because you could be aggravating the problem by avoiding it, trying to eliminate it, and then aggravating the reactions, and then pushing for solutions, pushing for rewards, pushing for them to be a better person, which gives them reward, or they're doing it to themselves and you're not catching on, right? So I'm taking it that level further. Go ahead, Jim.
So this is a question to kind of come at later. So as I understand EED, the problem that we're helping someone with is this sense of power, a lack of validation and a sense of powerlessness. We're inviting them into the transformation cycle to follow through and become whatever it is.
Yeah.
So the problem is they desire the transformation. But how do we communicate this, that we can help in a way of, you're connecting to your own inner resilience. We're supporting you connect to your own inner essence. So I'm just thinking through, like, are we not also part of that cycle of problem, reaction, reward of, are we not as EED coaches
Mm-hmm.
part of the reaction?
Okay, yeah, you're naming it right there. And there's one thing I want to add there. So it's when I'm working with a person, of course, they're going to be reactionary. And I could get pulled into this reactionary game with them. The very first thing I'm doing with myself and then with the client is moving into a level of acceptance. We'll neutralize this formula as soon as we accept the problem as it is. Because when we're going through problem, reaction, reward, or problem, reaction, solution, it's coming from a level of non-acceptance of the problem, saying, this is a problem and it is wrong. This is a problem and it's not, we can't tolerate this anymore, okay? You can't live a full life with this problem. EED is saying, when you're perfectly resilient, you can still live with that problem. It's not about tolerating it, it's about working with it. And that's how you get your creativity. It doesn't mean we're not going to change the problem. We're changing your relationship to the problem, okay? When that is changed, when you're in resilient relationship with the problem, then there's no such thing as a solution or reward, because the problem and the solution actually on a fractal level are the same thing, okay? They're two sides of the same coin. And I see this every time when I'm entering and if you watch previous webinars, I talk about this as well. Like I say the question and the answer are in the same moment. So you have the answer just by asking the question. We just need to, peel through the layers to reveal it, okay? You wouldn't be asking the question if you didn't already have the answer. That sounds weird. So that means the problem isn't actually a problem. It's a wake-up call. That's it, okay? It's a wake-up call to your next stage of evolution. That's the way I'd rather see it. Does anybody have comments on that?
Well, anytime it happened that there is a perfect synchronicity when I come here. And I was laughing because Jim just made the same question that it was in my mind, and say, how can we have a more effective marketing as coaches based on your model instead of this model? Because I experienced this experience that the problem is just an occasion to grow.
Yeah.
A wake-up call.
Yeah.
And wow, how can we create a new way to communicate with our client, our ideal clients? Because when they feel accepted, there is a complete different energy, complete different results, and a complete different relationship between me and my client.
This is exactly where I'd like to go, the kind of future I'd like to build. And in fact, we've created a sales course which shifts the whole approach to the seller and client relationship, so that it is based on resilience, and the whole sales approach and pitch is based on resilience first. And it just creates more client loyalty. It cuts down on I'd say consumer criticism, because a lot of times they're sold something that doesn't match. It's more they pushed it upon themselves, or they let it get pushed on them. Anyways, that opens a whole different conversation. But yeah, we're already moving in that direction, and I'd really like to see it be more widespread, and utilize it myself more and more. I'm very careful how I'm trying to market sometimes, because this problem, reaction, reward is so ingrained in us, okay? It's not easy to move out of. Okay, so with this problem, reaction, reward, what it actually is doing, it's downplaying a person's willpower, ability to strategize. It's downplaying their intelligence, their ability to think critically, and it's downplaying their sense of responsibility. Now, let me know if that sounds strange. Okay, because then I'm going to show you the second statement. The two go together. What it highlights, what false fulfillment highlights, is idealism, ease, flow, a sense of magic. It's also feeding the identity, and it's giving a person a sense of empowerment, which is actually entitlement. It is not true empowerment, but entitlement, okay? And so if I buy into my own idealism where everything is easy and it flows, I don't have to work hard, just everything happens by magic and it makes me feel good about myself, so I can have a stronger sense of self and identity. Now I naturally feel empowered and I deserve these rewards. They are owed to me because I've been victimized for so long, for example, okay? But for me to actually get those rewards, because it's easy, I don't need to have a strong sense of will because it just flows. I really don't need a strategy because it's magical. I don't have to be smart about it. I just should get it, right? Because I'm entitled to it. So therefore, I don't do any critical thinking, and I don't take responsibility for myself or my failures. It makes me easy to blame or give up. So we need to watch what we're feeding, okay? And a lot of sales strategies are using these things of, you know, you're entitled to this. This makes you more of who you are. It happens like magic. It just flows. It's easy. Wouldn't that be great? That's ideal, okay? This is what I'm talking about. Okay? And I've seen it flow into coaching sessions. When the coaching session becomes a feel-good session, these things are stressed. And anything about willpower, strategy, intelligence, critical thinking, and responsibility are delegated to, oh, that's just being negative. No, I'm being realistic. No, that's your saboteur. No, I'm being realistic. Okay, and I'm going to talk about that. How do we reconcile idealism and realism together? Okay. Any comments here? These were what I came up with as main symptoms of false fulfillment.
Now I understand why all the strategies I tried before never worked.
Why?
So I have this feeling that there is something that I'm missing here.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't resonate with me. They are not talking about how I work with my clients and how can I change this style. So this is really amazing training that I'm very happy to be here.
Okay. Glad to hear it. Yeah.
Personally, I was highlighting idealism.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I was so idealistic in the past. I need more of that back today. And now I begin to think that, yeah, it's actually like an excuse. Like, I need some idealistic state in order to be really motivated about things. Yeah. I see that now.
Now, I want to be very clear and give a disclaimer here. I am not negating idealism, ease, flow, magic, identity. I'm not negating that. I'm saying when it gets out of balance, okay? I'm saying these needs to be balanced together. Things can be easy and flow as well as, you know, you can have strategy and intelligence and willpower, okay? You can have identity and essence, okay? You can have empowerment and responsibility, okay? So they're balanced together, but these things tend to get downplayed because it takes away from your autonomy and makes you more dependent, okay? And when you have a weak will, of course you want things to be easy and to flow, okay? So now what are we looking at here? Oh, and this is the other thing that aggravates it even more. It tends to, this false fulfillment tends to emphasize you got to play big. You got to make a big impact, okay? You need to have values. And it co-opts the sense of purpose to make it more like a crusade where you have to fight for something. So it encourages this warrior or rescuer mentality. That's a polarized mentality. I'm this strong warrior, it's me against the world, they don't understand me. Or I have to rescue all the poor people from this situation and that situation. Again, both of those are based on validation, right? And it's encouraging self-empowerment to eliminate victimhood, meaning there's a non-acceptance of victimhood. I'm not a victim anymore. I'm now empowered. It's still on a false base, all right? We're going to talk about victimhood shortly, okay? Okay, so I wanted to add that in there, so that a lot of these self-development programs are telling you when you need to play bigger and make an impact, it means you're not doing enough and you are not enough already. So that feeds into, it aggravates, again, your sense of powerlessness. And then it says, if you want to play bigger and make an impact, you'll have more power and you'll have more sense of validation, okay? Again, it's all conditional. So all of these work together. Okay. So, these are 4 levels we work on in EED. Everyone has their own story, their point of view, their singular truth. Everyone is in a game in relationship with things. So we'll feel like we're in opposition, right? These first 2 levels of I need to believe my story and I'm playing a game to win, this is the level of conditions. This is the level of ego. And this red line means it's cut off from accessing our own source, resilience, autonomy, okay? So false fulfillment really plays up the story in the game because it's based on identity. It can become identity politics, but it's playing into your sense of validation and powerlessness to get a full sense of power. When we drop below the red line and we're into dream and source, this is where identity has less of a hold on us, and this is where acceptance comes into play. When I'm on more of this dream level, I'm able to really reach the other person and let them affect me. And therefore I'm accepting them. In order to let a person affect me, I need to be accepting them on a certain level. On this game level, the only way they're affecting me is I'm reacting. I'm not letting them penetrate, I'm reacting. Okay, here I'm letting them penetrate and I'm learning, absorbing and changing. This is a level of influencing each other. On source level, there is no more identity. It's gone. And this is a level of unity, okay? So unity in all potential. And so what we're doing in EED is we focus on creating relationship with our clients and with everyone on this more dream level. We let them go to game level. We let them tell their stories, but we're dropping them into this dream level and then further dropping them into the source level so that they can, that's when the shifts happen. When they experience essence, then they can start rebuilding who they are in relationship and then who they are in their game and who they are in their story. Okay, and it changes everything. So on the level of fulfillment, fulfillment actually starts from source and then it builds through the levels. We build it up through the levels. And this is how then you've got more agility and autonomy with whatever you're doing. And the fulfillment is happening now because you're able to reach the source level where everything is fulfilled. You are everything, all right? And people have a direct experience of that. So I'm just giving you, I know some of you've seen this before. So how to distinguish these levels? Story and game is all based on conditions. Dream and source is unconditional. It's resilient, right? So here's how the levels of conditions work. These are 4 behaviors of false fulfillment. It's all based on fear, and it's all based on the need to find security, okay? We're equating fulfillment with security and safety, all right? And I'm saying that's false because it's defined by that fear and emptiness, that's the underlying driver. Okay, if the ego feels empty, it needs to fill itself up. It's always going to run in this direction towards fulfillment. And when it's there, it won't let it go. It's going to cling to it. You can't take this away from me, and it'll defend. Okay. And if you further take it away, it's going to fight you. Okay, so the ego naturally is going to flee danger, naturally. That's our survival self. It's going to seek out its fulfillment. Whatever it thinks is the exact opposite of what it fears. Once it has it, it's going to cling to it, and it's going to fight to keep it. And it's going to fight against moving into that fearful place or empty place, okay? So this is a basic polarity that is, so if at any time someone is clinging to a value, they're fleeing something in order to escape to go somewhere else, to say, no, my values live over here, not there. I need to fight for my values. I'm clinging to my values. I have to fight for my purpose, or I'm seeking my purpose, okay? I'm fleeing this because I have a better vision. All of that is suspect, okay? That it's fear-driven. So listen to those 4 behaviors of flee, fight, search, and cling. Any questions on that? Okay. So now, how does this relate to being a rebel and being a victim? So, rebel and victim, I'm going to say, are both the same thing. They're both running on a track for validation. They just go about it in 2 different ways. And both are feeling powerless. Now, the rebel might look powerful, but it's a false power, okay? Because it's still based on emptiness. Rebels typically fight, okay? Oh, I'm standing up for my values. I assert myself, okay? I'm gonna rescue everyone else that you're persecuting and hurting. That's my life purpose, and that's my crusade, okay? Rebels go on crusades. Feel free to interrupt me at any time if you have a question or comment, or if you disagree. I'm just looking, chat. Okay, yeah. Yeah, Jim had to go. He already said he had to leave a bit early. Now, rebels also can escape. Okay, they're always escaping to greener pastures, or they'll create distractions, or they act indifferent. And what I mean by indifferent, meaning, fuck that. Screw that. I don't care. That's what I mean by indifference. That this belligerence of, you can't fight me. I don't care about what you think. Okay, they'll toggle between this fighting and escaping, fighting and escaping. Does that make sense? Okay, this is a strong active energy. Okay, the victim, on the other hand, so you could also say the rebel is based upon intolerance. Okay, intolerance. Therefore, they have to fight. They have to escape. The victim, on the other hand, they're going to flee naturally because they want to flee danger, or they cling. So if they get any kind of a safety, they're going to cling to it. That means they'll start getting belligerent, they'll refuse, they get stubborn, or they deny what's happening. Okay? When they flee, they literally may flee and avoid, or they may literally start disappearing, like, I don't feel anymore, I'm disappearing, I'm not here, or they avoid, okay? Victims are based upon, they're able to tolerate, but that doesn't mean they're accepting, okay? They can tolerate but not accept. And rebels will actively not tolerate, but they're also not accepting. And that's how they're masquerading with these 4 behaviors. Why am I bringing this in? Because a lot of fulfillment feeds the rebel and the victim. Question, I'm putting that out there. I want to see how it sits with you guys.
So you just said love fulfillment feeds the rebel and the victim. You mean
I'll say false fulfillment feeds the rebel and victim mentality. Okay, and I'm saying both are the same. Okay.
All right. That's the question. Where do you see this polarity taking place? Like, what are typical instances? Or did you have any mind? Because why did you pick the rebel victim polarity?
It's a way to maybe to exemplify or simplify these four behaviors. Okay, victims don't fight; they flee. Rebels fight, and victims flee. Okay, so it's a little mini polarity here between flee and fight. Okay, and then rebels will lead the way to greener pastures and escape. Okay, and victims will tend to cling to what they know and stay behind and pretend like nothing's changing around them. Okay, so again, here's another polarity just between these two behaviors. We'll toggle between rebel and victim on this side of fulfillment. Okay, I'm going to cling to my fulfillment, or I'm going to escape for more fulfillment. Okay, and I don't want to deal with what's dangerous or fearful. Okay. So here's one thing. When we push people to play bigger, make a bigger impact, take a bigger risk, we're actually inciting the rebel. Because we're pushing them here. And then that's pushing them to victimize themselves, where they're really not dealing with their circumstances, and then they're just going to fight, and really not look at those circumstances and just fight. And then say, why don't people understand me? Why don't people understand my crusade? And then their whole fulfillment fails. Okay, the whole bubble pops. I'm saying when they come from these behaviors, okay? Any other comments, questions here on that? Let me know if you follow or not, or if you agree, disagree.
Completely agree. I have a person in my house that it's in this complete state of rebel, victim, rebel, victim, rebel. It's a complete habit.
Okay. So what I have to say here is what ties this all together is a sense of powerlessness. Okay. Both the victim and the rebel are feeling powerless. The difference is you might see the powerlessness of the victim, and in fact, the victim might indulge in their powerlessness in order to gain more validation, say, poor me, come rescue me, save me. And the victim will say, I'm not affected by this. I will not stand for this. I will not allow my power to be taken away. Just with those words, it means they feel powerless because it's a false sense of power. If they have to cling or fight for the power, right, when they're getting into the stubbornness, it means they don't believe they have power in the first place. So, the victim loves the accolades of what a great crusader warrior they are. So this is more about validation to cover up the sense of powerlessness. Okay? Again, I said, false fulfillment feeds validation and aggravates the powerlessness because it brings out a rebel victim. Go ahead, Paul.
Now that you put in power and validation, I wanted to put into other words like offensive and defensive. So the rebel is offensively searching or fighting, while the victim is like defensively, like fleeing from something only if it has to, and clinging to what's there.
Yeah. Yes.
And thereby getting validation of I'm still defending, I still have a right to be here, while the rebel is like offensive, getting power or searching for the power by like being offensive.
Yes. So what's important here is that the rebel does not truly persecute, okay? They don't actually persecute. They act like they're persecuting, or they might attack and be on the offensive, but they're not truly owning power. A full pure persecutor truly owns their power, okay? And they don't care about validation. I've talked about the victim persecutor cycle in the last webinar a bit. These are two variations of the same thing. This is the passive victim and the active victim, the defensive victim and the offensive victim, okay? They're both coming from powerlessness, okay? Yeah. So false fulfillment is in fact feeding a victim mentality and polarizing people into rebels and victims, but they're all being victims, whether they believe it or not. Rebel will not believe they're a victim. Okay. So what's the antidote to this? Okay, we need to neutralize these four behaviors, any four that come up. So when creating fulfillment, first what we want to do is establish what is a creative source. This is a source that is like the state before any action, all right? We want to drop people into source being. So, it's easy to get somebody inspired, but then we move too quickly into, okay, what can you do? Let's strategize. Let's get some actions going. It may not be plugged in to a source. So it might be like a live wire. Okay, that's what we talked about before, that bipolar energy, high energy and then crashing really low. So get them inspired, but then peel them back to the state before action. This is a state that is self-generating and it's self-perpetuating, meaning it's not dependent on anything external, okay? So this is where you can work with values, but then you need to take the value itself away and just work with the energy that got produced from the value. And that's the creative energy. And have them, it's self-generating, self-perpetuating, it's unconditional. So it will, the more we take away rules and conditions and it becomes more and more unconditional, it will turn into a feeling of being limitless, a feeling of unity, a feeling of love, or a feeling of peace. Those are the four main ones that show up. And we want to circulate that through the person. Before any action, just enjoy their sense of well-being when they're connected to this energy or quality. Okay, and that is building resilience in them, right? And it's taking away any need for something because it becomes already self-fulfilling. So that's the most important thing, is to circulate their sense of well-being with the energy they connect with. And now we could start building action, vision, etc. Okay? How do we do that? We want to find out when they're connected to that energy, what's their natural strength or what's their natural resilience here. Charge that up, let it circulate through. So it could be love, it could be unity. Maybe it specifies into, a sense of strength or courage or something else, but it's still coming from source. When it gets charged up enough, they will want to naturally give away that energy. How that shows up is a natural sense of contribution, okay? If something fulfilling is not generous, it's probably false because it's not resilient. When something is resilient and unlimited, we're naturally generous, okay? From this sense of giving that energy, it's like this is a fountain of limitless energy. The cup overflows, I just give it. There's a natural sense of contribution. I feel so much love, and I really just want, to improve the well-being of people's lives. I really want people to take care of their children. I really want people to teach this kind of love to their children, or I want children to interact from this sense of love and unity, whatever it is, I don't know. And we can make it less ideal and more concrete and earthy, but it's a natural sense of contribution. From there, we can build a vision, we can build a strategy, we can build actions from that. But it's coming from this source that overflows, and it has a natural generosity to it. Now, we don't stop there. Then we want to then see, okay, so when you're giving that energy, what happens out here in the world? What's the impact that has? Or what does that future look like? And we want to link that back to the present moment, saying it is happening now. You are circulating that energy. You're seeing the circumstance. It comes back to you. It feeds your well-being. You're already in a loop, an energetic loop of a fulfilling state. All we have to do to that is add concrete action to make it more and more active and real. But we get the energy flowing first. So we want to bring that energy back into when you do this, that, or the other, when you are on purpose, or when you have that vision, what are the benefits and inspiration you get back? What are you receiving? This is one thing people forget about when they're doing fulfillment work is maybe they give. And then they have this false sense of modesty, like, oh no, I don't need reward. I don't need to take rewards, or, you know, or I'm just doing it for this, that, and the other. No, there are rewards to the well-being. If they don't do it, if they don't recognize how things feed back to their own inspirations and well-beings, they will exhaust themselves. And this is what causes burnout. If there is, for whatever they give and they're not receiving, then they'll exhaust their energy because it's just an outflow. So I want to point out that there's a natural generosity in giving, and there is a natural generosity in the way they receive, okay? So how does this feed back to their well-being and to the original strength? Or maybe it feeds into new strengths. How does this reinforce their vitality, their willpower, and their creativity? And then what's the purpose and meaning for themselves? Once they understand this relationship of, here I have this self-generating energy, I give it out, there's an impact out there or a contribution, I receive benefits back, that circulates through my energy, then they will understand the purpose and meaning of what they're envisioning, doing, or what their purpose is, okay? And that is what produces natural desire. That is desire from resilience as opposed to desire from emptiness. Any comments or questions here on what I've shown? And this is related to what I showed in another webinar on building investment in action. I'm just framing it in a different way so that it ties to fulfillment. This is designed so that in any moment I can get in touch with this resilient energy, and then it becomes a natural contribution, and I'm getting something back that feeds my well-being. It's not dependent upon what I do. It's all about how I'm in relationship. And then the actions come forth naturally from there. So we will go back and forth between build up the resilience, give, receive, build up the resilience, give, receive on the level of vision, and then do another round on the level of strategy, another round on the level of action, another round on purpose. But we're always following this kind of a flow of energy so that we're making sure that they're just not either coming from emptiness or exhausting themselves. Any comments there? Does this sound logical or does it sound strange?
Well, just one comment to the energy. So it's going up and down in order to connect the higher brain functions with lower brain functions, or why? Relating to the circuits?
There are several reasons. Yes, we want congruency, like say brain-heart coherence, okay? We want an alignment between what I'm thinking, feeling, saying, doing, how my posture is, so that it's all coherent. We also want this energy to be both grounded, meaning through the feet, and inspirational through the head, so that we're not just in these lofty ideas, but that it comes back to earth and it feels concrete. And then it goes back up and down. Okay, so, and we spend module 1 really working on what is this resilient vertical loop. Okay, and then the other modules will deal with those polarities and how to do this give and receive on the horizontal. but this is foundational, is to get this resilient energy flowing within somebody. Okay. Any kind of energy that starts up in someone, anybody as a coach, a leader, facilitator, they know how to spark resonance in the person. Okay, there's a resonant energy, an excited energy. We're saying don't take action on the energy yet, but start circulating the energy through the person, through the feeling level, through the sensation level, physical sensation level, and through the awareness level, and get them into a state where there's nowhere to go, nothing to be, nothing to do. They're just in pure enjoyment of this energy, and it circulates back onto themselves to feed their well-being. It reinforces then their creativity. And that's then when we can start generating ideas for vision, purpose, and action and strategy. Is that clear? Okay. So just some tips for generating resilience. So whenever you're getting into resilience or action, to avoid false fulfillment, okay? Don't base vision or action on how big it's supposed to be or how big the impact is supposed to be, okay? Rather, you want to take the creativity and express the highest quality of an idea. So keep refining the idea to its highest quality. So if I have an idea, like, oh, I have this idea for a story, it's a nice fairy tale. Okay, let's feed the resilience and the well-being and the creativity into the idea and see what is the best expression of this idea. Does that mean it needs to be a poem, a short story, a novel, a film, or a whole television series? Or is it just something that goes in my private memoir? A lot of times people are like, wow, that's an amazing idea for a story you have. You should do this as a big budget film. Play big, don't play small. Don't get caught into that, because that creates stress, anxiety, and pressure and obligation. And it may not be the true reflection of what the idea wants to be. So design a platform to best express the quality of the idea. It's not about quantity. Okay. I see that a lot where people get trapped into, just because you have an idea, it's got to be big. Now, some ideas, yeah, they merit being big, but you have to balance that. Okay, so then if the quality of the idea is going to be big, then we have to match the resilience and creativity of the person so they will be able to do that, or know how to get that idea realized, or be okay doing it on a smaller scale. We want balance between the resilience and the platform. So this means you need to test the limits of a client so that they get their fullest expression of creativity. But we don't do that testing by coming from need or obligation. When what I mean by fullest expression of creativity is, yes, we want them to be their best and most resilient self and most creative self, but it's not by saying you're not enough now. It's more of, let's explore and get what's the full potential available here through enjoyment and resilience, as opposed to you must be bigger, better, faster, because otherwise you're just a non-person. Does this make sense what I'm saying? Okay. Next here is, when you want to expand the creativity, expand it from resilience. And again, not from the ego, not from the rebel victim. And this is especially when working with life purpose. A lot of people, when they get into life purpose work, they think it has to be grand and big and they have to save the world. And they can't just say, my purpose is to raise my kids, from a place of meaning and love and resilience and agility, okay? No, somehow I have to be a mother to all mothers of the world and show them how to raise their kids in the best possible way and write a book and be on TV, right? So I'm saying cut out, again, the need to be big. keep expanding their creativity, keep expanding their ideas from a resilient place. Let the resilience further generate the inspirations, not the ego, because the ego is going to start behaving like a rebel or a victim. Okay. And here's something: whatever their creative ideas are, let it be both simple and compelling. That means it's tangible and doable. And test that their ideas are coming from a natural sense of contribution and generosity. Because sometimes they're using ideas to validate themselves, prove themselves, okay? And that victim rebel is coming out again, or vindicate themselves, right? When it comes from a natural sense of contribution, when it's naturally generous, it's also resilient because it's flowing from source. This also means, though, they could say, well, I have this wonderful idea, I can get it done. So it needs to be compelling so that they do it. If it's just simple, it might stay on the shelf because they'll say, sure, I accept it, I don't have to do it, and I'm resilient. But they want, it's so compelling that they want to express it, but it's from a generosity. Okay, it's not from the need to prove something or the need to validate themselves. It's a very fine line what I'm talking here, okay? Let's see, there's another point here. And always link any creative ideas back to their well-being. This will reinforce their natural resilience and creativity, and it keeps increasing their willpower. That's how you make ideas compelling. Keep linking it back to the well-being. Oh, you know, I could be just focusing on raising my kids. How is that fulfilling for you? How does it feed your well-being? What's your sense of self then? Now what do you want to give? Right? And just keep cycling back and forth, back and forth. You build the inspiration with the reinforced well-being, the creativity increases, as well as the resilience. And that's what builds willpower. Questions, comments? Okay. For action and strategy, I actually sometimes want to bring the rebel and the victim in order to create better strategies. Now, before I do that, when working with resilient, and we're talking, when we work with fractal patterns, so this is the same with actions. I want to work with micro actions, very small actions of low consequence, but they have very deep meaning because every action is an expression of the resilience, which then will naturally give a transformation. I'm not doing actions to transform something because then that means it could lack resilience. Transformation flows out of resilience. So all actions are more based upon exercising my resilience in a new pattern. So it's best to do that in environments of low consequence, meaning there's not high stakes, but it has deep meaning. I don't need big actions to prove something to myself. If I'm doing that, I'm in that rebel victim place. I don't need to do big leaps and big changes because that's just going to feed my sense of validation. It's going to put more stress on me to fail, for example. Or I'm worried I will fail. All actions need to be accompanied by a solid strategy and test those strategies out. So don't be afraid to work through both possibilities and failure or nightmare from a place of resilience. Now, why would I say that when strategizing? Why would you want to explore failure?
Well, failure is crucial to understand what doesn't work for us. To me, it was a great place of learning that many of the business strategies and all these things that I see in a marketplace doesn't work for me. And this obliged me to look deeper what I wanted work for me. And how can how I want to create a relationship with my, let's say, ideal clients. How do I want to work with these people? And which kind of people I would like to really get in relationship and empower our relationship. Now I am working on this.
Mm-hmm.
And without failure, I wasn't able to think about that.
Yeah. When we're in this rebel victim thinking, we love ideals and idealism because it feeds our need for validation, and it keeps us away from taking full responsibility of our own power. Because then we just say, well, we can fail and it's okay. I still, I'm a good person. That is opposite to strategic thinking. What strategic thinking says, I've got such an airtight plan here. It's guaranteed not to fail. And at the same time, when it's resilient strategy, it says, so if it does fail, I still am adaptable and flexible and I can respond. There's no sense of shame or self-punishment. So come from resilience first, build the resilience, then the vision. Then when we get into strategy, we can start poking holes in this, in the vision to really test it out and bring it from idealism to realism, okay? If your client is in the rebel victim mode and they don't want to think about failure and they just want to have these idealistic actions, that's a sign they're in false fulfillment because they're unwilling to take responsibility for what they are creating. They just want it to poof, appear like magic, and they don't want resistance, okay? When they are resilient, they're able to work with resistance, and that's when you get best strategy, okay? So never be idealistic with action and strategy. Ideals belong in the vision, dreaming, and brainstorming stage, okay? So when you're doing visioning and dreaming and brainstorming, you don't want to be realistic. You want idealism, you want lots of dreaming. And then when you're moving into strategy and you're narrowing that vision down into manageable steps, you've got to now become more and more and more realistic. This is where resilience is important, because when we start hitting the ground, bringing our feet back to earth, we can flip over into that rebel victim mode. We can and start doubting ourselves, self-punishing ourselves, avoiding, fighting. The resilience will neutralize that. So you keep toggling between resilience, vision, bring in the real world fears, go back to the resilience, let that give more creative ideas to either the vision or the strategy, and you're toggling between all three: resilience, creativity or vision, and fear. And putting the three in a healthy relationship. Is that kind of clear? A symptom of creating false fulfillment is that it only remains in the idealistic stage. And any opposition or fear is going to be refused. It's like going to say, don't pop my bubble, okay? Watch for that. You do want to pop the bubble once the resilience is in place. So you want to bridge vision and reality together, coming from a place of acceptance, resilience, and creativity. And that's how you create strategy and action. And let fear test the vision and strategy so that it's from a resilient response, so that you can clean up any errors in the strategy, fill any gaps. And that strengthens the autonomy of the person. They really own the plan from their own resilience and creativity. And in that process, they're facing all their fears and overcoming them from a resilient place. It's not from a desperate, idealistic place. Any questions or comments on these tips for creating action and strategy that reinforce resilience and fulfillment? No? You're all good? Okay. So, summary. Separate all forms of fulfillment from identity. Bring it into the essence, into the source. So you can start with values, you can have vision, purpose, desire, all that, but bring it back to source, meaning clean. Don't have values attached to the identity. Otherwise, that's going to bring out the rebel victim. Okay. Same with purpose, vision, any kind of desire. Fulfillment is not based on need or, let's say, empty desire. It is not about achievement. It's not about improvement. It's not driven by fear or conditions. Those are all symptoms of false fulfillment. So if you smell need, desire, achievement, improvement, fear, or it's conditional, it is false. And you can quickly neutralize that by bringing them back into source and building resilience, then returning to whatever they're looking at as being something fulfilling. And usually what happens is they're like, well, I don't really need that. I can want it, but I don't need it. They're more resilient in that way. So keep in mind that fulfillment comes from source. It is resilient and it has a natural sense of contribution that feeds back to the well-being. When that's happening, they're not waiting to be fulfilled, they already are, because every moment is now fulfilling, and natural fulfillment is generous. There's this generous give and receive. Again, don't base things on whether something is big or small. I can be walking down the street, smiling at people or just making eye contact, and that could be fulfilling a purpose, okay? Could be washing my dishes or vacuuming the floor, and I can feel fulfilled and on purpose because it's the way I'm in relationship. I'm coming from source and resilience, and I'm making contribution naturally from that source. And it feeds back to me to reinforce well-being and creativity. So if the rebel victim is linked to fulfillment, it is fear-based. So listen for these 4 behaviors of fight, flee, cling, and search. If that's happening, just test their resilience, okay? If they say, oh, sure, I'm a strong warrior, okay? Do you need to be that? Yes, I need to be that to fight the fight. Okay, let's just take the fight away. Or what if you don't win? I have to win. What if you don't? You see, then they're clinging, right, to something. So we want to release them from the needs to fight, flee, cling, or search. Doesn't mean we're changing their idea, we're changing their relationship to the idea. Does that make sense? And we show you in all the modules how to neutralize those behaviors anyways. And this is key. Before taking action on any fulfillment or any fulfilling idea, plug into source first and then build action from there. Build actions from source. They will be more sustainable and more resilient and less prone to moving into that rebel victim territory. So what are your final thoughts or comments here? What are you taking away from this webinar? And not sure if it was what you expected or not, but
well, you were busting in myths for me in the beginning, so my expectation got fulfilled. Pun. And no, later on, it's like it all got to me from different angles on stuff I knew, so it's sticking on me, and I should really revisit the material I got in module 1.
Yeah.
And kind of cross-check or kind of cross-associate. So yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. How about you, Reina?
Well, it was a wonderful webinar, and I take away how can I be more fulfilled, if it's possible, to be extraordinarily ordinary.
Yeah. That's actually a great statement you could, or question you can ask yourself is, how is this moment already quite extraordinary?
Yes.
That has us stop the searching, right? And it has us move into acceptance, fascination, and appreciation so that we can enjoy the moment instead of wishing the moment were different. And that's a great practice for immediate entry into the fulfillment territory that's resilience-based. Yeah. How is this moment already extraordinary? That's great.
Yes.
Awesome. Amiel, any comments? What do you take away from the webinar? If I can't see you, are you? Yeah,
I've been a bit inactive because I had to drop out in between, so I'm not sure. I probably missed a bit stuff, so I can't really tell.
Anything that stands out for you that either feels new or reinforced?
Well, what I'm reading here in the summary is telling me that it's also not about doing anything. So I should only find fulfillment in not being, not doing.
Yes and no. So yeah, that's good that you bring that, because I don't want to create a misunderstanding. It comes from source being, and then we express the source being. So the action naturally comes from the source being. Like I'm saying, it's a natural contribution as opposed to something I'm imposing on it. Okay?
Okay, so it's basically just letting the body move by itself.
Yeah, once you're connected to your own source, right? Then you'll naturally begin to express and create.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that.
Otherwise, a lot of people are doing it the other way around, where they're trying to say, express and create, and then you'll feel more fulfilled. But what they're really doing is their creations are coming from something external, not internal. That's why I'm saying plug into source. So there is doing. This is about doing, but it's not about empty doing. It's a natural overflow of being that it becomes doing.
Yeah, inspired action.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So for to learn more, I mean, I know Amiel, Paul, you've taken the modules. Irina, still want to see you in a module. Our next ones are coming up in September and October in Munich and Paris, and this is also for the benefit of those listening to the recording. In Module 1, you learn all about accessing resilience and how to get this vertical loop going and how to access source energy. In the subsequent modules, Modules 2 and 3, you learn more about, well, in Module 2, how to deal with that rebel victim mentality, how to neutralize it, and in Module 3, how to really create from source, okay, in various ways. And we have a new course coming out, working with team dynamics and EED leadership. So it's resilient-based leadership and understanding the larger dynamics of an entire group and how to facilitate that, and how to either in a team coaching context or as a trainer or facilitator working with a group. And that's coming to Frankfurt at the end of September. And our next webinar will be on August 7th, and I have not yet decided on the theme, so that will be announced shortly. So check back in a day or two to the registration site to see what the webinar will be, okay? And then you can always visit the website, you can always visit our Facebook or Twitter, or you can email me or EED, all right? info@essence-dynamics.com. You can contact me, Troy, at essence-dynamics.com, and the website is essence-dynamics.com. EE Dynamics on Facebook and Twitter. And I'd love to hear your comments. Love to see your posts. Love to share information. Check back to the Facebook page or the Twitter or the website to find out when the next webinar, or what the next webinar will be. But it is August 7th, so you can say I've already saved the date. So thank you very much, everyone. Enjoy life. Be brilliant. Keep radiant. Be generous.
Thank you.
Thank you, Troy. You too.
Thank you, everyone, and I hope to see you on the next webinar or in one of our courses. And in the meantime, enjoy a wonderful summer. I hope you guys...
You too, Troy. Have a great summer.
I will.
A lot of fun.
Yes, fun is important. Yes. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Bye.